You're listening to the micro version of the Savage Lovecast at savage.love.
If you're stuck in a relationship quandary, or if you're looking for sexual harmony, well, there's nothing you can't ask on the Savage Lovecast.
So, a small correction to kick off the show this week. Last week, at the top of the show, I said no one knew the name of the guy who took home the gold medal in pole vaulting at the 2020 Olympic Games in Japan. But everyone knew the name, at least last week, of the French pole vaulter Anthony Ammirati, whose giant dick knocked the bar off the bar holding up thingies that pole vaulters use those long poles to vault themselves over. Forgive me for the technical sports jargon here. I am obviously an expert on all things sports. Anyway, the same day I pointed out that we all knew Ammirati's name, it was on all of our lips, no one could name the guy who actually won the 2020 gold medal in pole vaulting at the Olympics, right before this Olympics. My point wasn't prurient. I mean, prurience was definitely a factor. We all saw the video, but my point, while prurient adjacent, wasn't entirely prurient. I was reflecting in last week's intro on fame in the age of social media and how we suddenly woke up in a world where Olympic athletes who represent their nations at these quadrennial contests and wind up on cereal boxes and with endorsement deals and are expected to be role models for kids. Olympic athletes suddenly have OnlyFans accounts and yet are still being held up as role models for kids. Suddenly these things, being a sexual person, a person aware of their own desirability and marketability, and being an Olympic athlete, no longer in conflict. You could imagine, maybe just 1 or 2 Olympic Games ago, an athlete being sent home in disgrace after their OnlyFans account was discovered. Things have clearly changed for the better. Anyway, the day I said all that, the morning I recorded it, no one had heard of the guy who took gold in this event in 2020. That was Swedish pole vaulter Armand Mondo Duplantis. That guy, that same guy, Mondo is his nickname, won the gold in pole vaulting again at this Olympics in Paris. And suddenly he was everywhere. Everyone knew his name, which means people who listened to last week's show after Duplantis took his second gold medal may have been confused when I said no one knew who he was. The morning I recorded the show, no one knew who he was. The afternoon you listened to it, everyone knew who he was. In no small part, thanks to Anthony Ammirati's not small part. Way more people were tuning in for men's pole vaulting finals at this Olympics than past Olympics, in large part thanks to the attention Ammirati's accident drew to the event. So while Ammirati ultimately didn't medal, he came in 11th place, he did his fellow pole vaulters a solid. So congrats to Armand Duplantis, who I described in last week's intro as a fucking adorable Muppet-faced boy, which is the highest compliment I can possibly bestow, but who the internet took one look at and instantly slapped the hot rodent man label on. Rodent man. Some people think it's an insult when I describe guys as Muppet-faced men, but rodent man and rodent man, that's supposed to be a compliment. Earlier this year, the New York Times wrote a giant Styles think piece about hot rodent men, which the New York Times defined as a loose category of male actors suddenly prominent who look a little bit like mice or rats. And they listed their names, men like Josh O'Connor, Mike Faced, Matthew Healy, Jeremy Allen White, Timothy Chalamet. So the New York Times, the same paper that gently scolded Americans for making couch jokes about J.D. Vance, is comfortable comparing gorgeous men, insulting gorgeous men like Mike Faced and Jeremy Allen White by saying they look like rodents. You know who looks like a rodent? That guy Jake Tapper on CNN doesn't want us telling all those couch jokes about. J.D. Vance looks like a gerbil. And yes, gerbils are rodents. I double-checked, Googled it. Gerbils are in the rodent family Muridae, which includes mice and rats, but are classed in their own subfamily, the Gerbilinae. Looking up gerbils, I remembered that I had a friend in grade school who lost her gerbil in her family's living room sofa. We were sitting on the sofa, we were playing with the gerbil, and it burrowed into the cushions to get away from us. Lost forever, never seen again. Coincidence? I don't think so. If I've learned anything paying attention to right-wing lunatics for the last decade, it's that there are no coincidences. So until I see proof that J.D. Vance is not my friend Betsy's gerbil that crawled into her family's couch one day and was never seen again, I am going to believe J.D. Vance, actual rodent-faced man, is my friend Betsy's gerbil, just older, bigger, and shittier. Anyway, while Jake Tapper is appealing to people to stop making those couch jokes, I thought I would slip in my appeal to people to stop calling hot guys who aren't blandly attractive rodent men. What they are is not blandly and interchangeably attractive. Think of the four Chris's of Hollywood. Chris Pine, Chris Pratt, Chris Hemsworth, Chris Evans. Memes fly around on Black Twitter about how black people can't tell these bland-ass white boys apart. Speaking for at least one bland-ass gay white boy, I can't tell them apart either. I'm here for this moment, this shift. I'm not going to call them rodent men. I'm here for the non-Chris's, for the Muppet-faced men. What they have in common, Mondo Duplantis, Timothy Chalamet, Mike Face, Jeremy Allen White, are unique and uniquely striking facial features. Along with this shift in attitudes about our sports heroes, our national heroes, and whether or not they could sell softcore porn online, there is a shift underway in our perception of, or our idea of male beauty, an expansion of that idea to include and encompass people like Jeremy Allen White and Mike Faced. Or, when you think about it, maybe it's a reversion to a past beauty ideal, a reversion to the 70s, 80s, when guys like Gene Wilder, Willy Wonka, weren't just considered sex symbols, but actually were sex symbols. Elliot Gould, movie star, sex symbol, Mr. Barbra Streisand for a few minutes there, and no one you could ever mistake for one of the Chris's. Leading men and sex symbols back then, Richard Dreyfuss, Dustin Hoffman. Yeah, Hoffman played a character in a movie nicknamed Ratso and was a sex symbol then. Free to do some Google image searching after the show. You will see what I mean. I guess to sum up, you could say I feel about rodent men memes the way J.D. Vance feels about all of those couch references and memes. I want it to stop. And at least for Vance's part, he may have found a way to get it, the couch jokes, to stop. Photos leaked today of Vance in drag. Once again proving, whatever it is, it's okay if you're a Republican. Republicans, as Rudy Giuliani demonstrated years and years ago, they don't have a problem with drag, so long as they're the ones doing it, and they're doing it badly. All right, coming up on today's show, Joan Price, senior sex activist and author of Naked at Our Age, pops in to answer a question about helping older relatives navigate dating apps, and we talk about why your mom might want to get on Field. And joining me on the Magnum, the funny Dom, a 24/7 dominant daddy and author based in Australia. We talk about how novice subs can tell good doms from bad doms, how kink helps some people process trauma in wonderfully cathartic and orgasmic ways, and so much more. All that coming up on today's show. Let's get to the first question. This episode of the Savage Lovecast is brought to you by Dipsy. Dipsy is an app full of hundreds of short, sexy audio stories designed by women for women. Get an extended 30-day free trial when you go to dipsystories.com/savage. This episode is brought to you by my favorite mattress, Helix Sleep. Right now, Helix is offering 20% off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners. Go to helixsleep.com/savage now. Support for today's show, support we are very grateful for, comes from Stamps.com. With Stamps.com, you can access all the amazing services of the post office right from your desk in your own home, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just click, print, mail, and you are done. It could not be easier. And right now, use Savage for this special offer. Includes up to $55 worth of free postage, a digital scale, and a 4-week trial. Do not wait. Go to Stamps.com, and before you do anything else, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage and type in Savage. That's Stamps.com. Enter SAVAGE.
Dan, Nancy, tech-savvy at-risk youth. This is a late 20s cishet guy. So last year, I started something with my coworker. I got a crush after talking with her for a few months, and we were connecting pretty deeply before I finally asked her to come to my place and told her how I felt. However, once we finally found our way to having sex and the clothes came off, I slowly realized that I wasn't attracted to her body. I got distant and tried to lie about why I wasn't as enthusiastic, but eventually she got a confession out of me. It killed me to have to tell her that because she wasn't what I expected, the spark was gone. We're now actually still friends, and I do appreciate that she made me tell her the truth, which went against everything my anxiety was telling me. What I was wondering about it was, have you had similar experiences, Dan? Am I kind of shallow for letting a lack of physical attraction ruin a strong connection? And do you have any tips on how to navigate telling someone you aren't attracted to them if/when the time comes?
Of course, I've gone to bed with people that I thought I might be attracted to when we were standing in bar light somewhere where they were fully clothed, and then we got naked and rolling around, and it's like, yeah, this isn't it. But I was never so foolish or cruel or stupid as to tell that to someone. Leave them in better shape than you found them. Being scaldingly honest, even under pressure, and telling someone something like, you told this poor girl, is not going to leave them in better shape than you found them. You make excuses. You don't say, hey, I didn't know how ugly you were with your clothes off until your clothes were off. What can I possibly do? Dick is dick. No. You tell the little white fucking lies, including the one that would kind of encompass the reality of the situation here. It was just, I thought I was attracted to you, and then we had sex that one time, that couple of times, and I wasn't feeling it. The spark wasn't there, and I think I mistook a friendly attraction for a romantic attraction, and I'm really sorry. And then shut your fucking mouth. And if they ask again and again and again, you repeat that fucking answer. Because if you liked her and you did like her, you don't want to leave her in worse shape than you found her. You don't want to shove someone's ego and self-esteem into a wood chipper like that. Look, honesty is the best policy. People should be honest. People should tell each other the truth. Everybody likes to say that. Everybody likes to pretend that's true in all circumstances. But there are times when the kindest, gentlest, most loving thing you can possibly do is to bullshit someone. This may be the example, the best example, the platonic ideal of an example of one of those times when you tell the face-saving, ego-sparing, gentle white lie. Her body didn't work for you. Doesn't mean it won't work for anybody else, but the next time she gets undressed in front of somebody, she's going to be thinking about what you said. She's going to be thrown back into that moment when she first got naked with you and you two had sex and you were having these feelings and she wasn't perceiving them, didn't perceive how you were feeling, and she's going to be worried with the next guy and the next guy and the next guy, even if they are really into her and her physical body and self, that they may not be. You have given this woman the cursed amulet of an insecurity and self-doubt that she will carry into all future subsequent sexual first encounters. That was a shitty fucking thing to do. You should have fucking lied your face off, even if she asked 1,000 times.
Hi, Dan, Nancy. I'm a tech savvy at-risk youth. I'm a single mom. I have a toddler kid, almost 4 years old. I have been seeing someone now for about 7 months, and we've reached the stage where I'm planning on introducing him to my child. You know, she's pretty young, so she doesn't really understand the concept of a significant other. I think that is something that she wouldn't necessarily grasp. But I'm just wondering if you have any good advice or resources about navigating this. Initially, the plan is to introduce my partner as a friend, and, you know, he'll spend time with us doing things, go to the museum with us, go to the movies with us, have dinner occasionally. It's not going to be an everyday thing for sure, but, introduce him slowly and have him start to be a recognizable person in her life. This is a kid who hangs out with my friends all the time, so I'm not worried about introducing her to a new person. I just want to make sure that I do it in a way that is something she can both process, and also I don't want her to feel as she gets a little bit older, assuming this person stays in my life, I don't want her to feel like his role suddenly flip-flops. So I'm just wondering if you have any advice for that.
I have no advice for you. You are doing this right. You are doing everything right. You're taking it really slow. You've been seeing this man for 7 months and you have not yet introduced him to your daughter. That is, I want to say advisable because it's what everybody advises single parents who are dating to do, to really get to know someone and trust them before you introduce them to your child. And when you do introduce them to your child, a very slow roll. And that's what you've planned. You're not introducing this person to your child now as a romantic partner. You're not letting this person move in with you. You're not telling your kid you're auditioning a potential step parent. You're just folding him into the natural flow of your friends and the other adults and people around you, and therefore who are around her and part of her life because they're mom adjacent. He's mom adjacent in a really important way that she does not yet need to know about. And I think, usually when you read the parenting advice blogs and Psychology Today on how to roll out this kind of relationship, people say, wait till 6 months or a year. Wait a year. I think it should be a year. Not a year until this person can't be at a barbecue. Not a year until you might invite this person to a group activity with others of mom's friends, but a year, at least a year, until this person's significance to you is revealed to your child. Because really at that moment, your child begins to root for this relationship. They begin to feel invested in this relationship in a way that it can be really traumatic to have yanked back. And so you want to be really sure about this guy before you ask your child to begin investing in him emotionally and rooting for this relationship that you have in the way kids root for their parents who are single or divorced to find new partners. You want to wait for a year. And it would be good. It would be good if when that time came, you said, something I need to tell you. I've been seeing someone. Mom has a boyfriend. You've actually met him. He was at the barbecue at Sue's house. Or remember that movie night where we all went to see whatever it was? I introduced you. You met him. That was him. And maybe your daughter will have formed, your kid, some impression of him that is hopefully positive. And then the rollout at a year of who he actually means, his significance to you, will be welcome and deftly done. And like I said, I have no advice for you. And then I talked for 10 minutes. You're doing everything right. You're doing everything right. My only advice for you is to draw this slow roll out and don't drop the B bomb, the boyfriend bomb, until it's been a year. The place, Oxford University. The time, early 20th century. Alice, a brilliant but overlooked cleaning woman, finds herself drawn to the mysterious and charismatic Professor Nicholas Whitlock. As she becomes his secret student and lover, Alice uncovers Nicholas's dark secret. He is a vampire. Thus begins a very spicy story you can read now on Dipsy. Dipsy is an app full of hundreds of short, spicy audio stories. Dipsy brings scenarios to life with immersive soundscapes and realistic characters. Discover stories about second chance romances, adventurous vacation flings, hot and heavy hookups, and at Dipsy you will find a growing library of fantasy series with werewolves, Regency-era historical fiction, and fairy smut, my personal favorite kind of smut, to explore the bounds of your pleasure and your erotic imagination. And Dipsy offers erotic fiction you can read with your very own eyeballs, which is how I like to take my erotica. New content is released every week at Dipsy, so in between listening to your favorite stories again and again and again, you can always find something new to explore. Dipsy offers a modern approach to romance through high quality and captivating audio fiction. People really love this. I highly recommend it. For listeners of this show, Dipsy is offering an extended 30-day free trial when you go to dipsystories.com/savage. That's 30 days of full access for free when you go to DIPSEA stories.com/savage. Let them know the Lovecast sent you. dipsystories.com/savage.
Hello, Dan. I am a bisexual 50-year-old woman living in Australia. I came out to my parents when I was 19 and they spiraled and rejected me. There were threats of self-harm and threats of harm to me. I was told it would kill my grandparents and all sorts of things. Oh, my mother even accused me of being a pedophile, which was a nice touch. I am now in my 50s. I've worked very hard to manage all of this and be myself through a combination of friends and chosen family therapy and long periods of estrangement from my biological family. I have 3 wonderful children. They're also shit grandparents. I am in love with a wonderful woman I met 2 years ago and life is going well. The problem is, and I knew this day would come, my dad is dying. It is as hard as I imagined. For context, I asked my parents about 18 months ago if they'd like to meet my new partner, and they said they were ashamed of me and always had been. So they've had, 30 years to come to terms with my sexuality, but haven't moved at all. Now that Dad is dying, they're acting like nothing has happened. We literally haven't spoken at all in about 18 months. But my mother is calling me and speaking to me as though nothing's happened. I'll jump on a plane to see them and tend to my dying father. I suspect that this is more to do with how it looks than what's actually happening. My therapist is adamant that I don't have to go. My kids want nothing to do with it. My partner's very supportive. But I do have friends who are telling me I should go. And I know I am being judged because my father is dying. Dan, I don't know what to do. I really don't. On the one hand, he's a sick old man. On the other hand, I was essentially orphaned at the age of 19, and they have never come to my side in times of need, even when I have been in dire need. So what do I do, Dan? Please help.
I was just talking to someone the other day about being 17, 18 years old and going to my first Pride Parade. And the hysteria, the devastation when PFLAG came marching down the street. Parents and friends of lesbians and gays. The crowd, all of us on the sidewalks, people just weeping because it was so rare to have loving and supportive parents. And seeing these parents march down the street with their gay, lesbian, bi kids at the Pride Parade, it was like seeing, I don't know, unicorns and centaurs and fairies and angels. It blew people's minds because the default then, and this is 40 years ago when I went to my first Pride Parade, was if you were out and gay, you were estranged from your family. If you were out and gay, your parents were ashamed of you. That one of the prices you paid when you came out was losing your family of origins, love, and their support. And now you go to the Pride Parade and PFLAG comes marching down the street and everybody loves PFLAG still. And PFLAG has done such amazing work with family and friends of lesbian, gay, bi, and trans people and does amazing work still. But eyes are dry. People aren't weeping when they see moms and dads who love their queer kids because it's not a rarity anymore, because the default now is not estrangement. The default now, fingers crossed, is love and support. You're close to my age. So when you were 19 and came out and your family disowned you and abandoned you the way they did, that was common. That was what we expected. That was why people didn't come out to their parents. I remember when I was young and gay, like you would meet people and one of the questions you would ask them, are you out to your family? And the assumption was, and the answer often was no. And now it's just, you expect people to be out to their families and you expect their families to be loving and supportive. And you expect families like yours in the last 30, 40 years to have come the fuck around. Your parents weren't ready to march in the P flag contingent at the parade when you were 19, but at some point in the decades that followed, your parents, like my parents, like the parents of so many of us who are on that sidewalk in Chicago watching P flag come down the street and weeping, would have come around, and they didn't, and they failed you. And I am so sorry that your parents weren't able to love you the way you deserve to be loved and be proud of you for being the person that you are. So now what do? Your dad's dying. Your therapist is right. You do not have to go. And I want you to set aside your parents' feelings. Fuck your parents. I'm curious how you will feel if you don't go see your dad. If you go and you regret it, okay, well, that's an active, proactive kind of regret that you can live with. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. And you can forgive yourself. If you don't go and you regret it, that's not something that you can ever undo or redo. I guess this is my inherent conservatism culturally, not conservatism in like you owe it to your shitty parents or religious conservatism. I just mean erring on the side of caution that you might want to go see your dad, if only to tell him off one last time for you. Not for him, not for your fucking mother, for you. And if that doesn't make sense to you, if there's no part of you that would want to see your dad for you, don't fucking go. Don't fucking go. Your therapist is right. You do not have to go. The question is, do you want to go? And if you don't go and you project yourself into, a decade from now, do you anticipate possibly regretting not having gone? And if you think you might regret not going, then going is something you would be doing not for your dad, who failed you in every way a parent possibly could. It would be something you would be doing for you. We talk a lot here about spicing up our sex lives, trying new things like trying it in the car or trying it in public. But sometimes a comfortable and familiar place is the best place to try it, the best place to do it, a place where you can fall asleep right afterwards. For me, that place is on top of my Helix mattress. We have one in our main bedroom, one in our other main bedroom, and one in our guest room for our very special guest stars. The Helix lineup offers 20 unique mattresses, including the award-winning Luxe Collection. That's ours. That's the mattress we have. The newly released Helix Elite Collection, a mattress designed for big and tall sleepers, and even mattresses made just for kids. To figure out which mattress is right for you, take the Helix Sleep Quiz to find your perfect mattress in under 2 minutes. And then your personalized mattress will be shipped straight to your door free of charge. But you will get, with your mattress, a 100-night sleep trial. You can try out your new mattress, see how your body adjusts. And if you decide it's not the best fit, you are welcome to return it for a full refund. Helix offers models with memory foam layers to provide optimal pressure relief if you sleep on your side, like me, or models with more responsive foam to cradle your body for essential support in stomach and back sleeping positions. Plus, enhanced cooling features to keep you from overheating at night. Helix mattresses all come with a 10 or 15-year warranty, depending on the model. And right now, for my listeners, Helix is offering 20% off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows. Go to helixsleep.com/savage to get 20% off and those 2 free pillows. With Helix, better sleep starts now.
Hi there, Dan. I have a question for you about dating apps. My mother is in her 70s. She has been single from my dad for going on 10 years now. She recently came to me with a list of dating apps that she would like me to help her set up a profile on, which is totally fine. The usual suspects are there, and I'm going to try to get her on like an older dating website as well. Though number 3 on the list was Field, which makes me a little bit uncomfortable setting my 74-year-old mother up a Field profile. I'm not sure that she knows exactly what it is, or maybe she does, and I'm just behind the times. But any help with this? She's completely computer phone illiterate, so I will need to help her, but I feel a bit awkward about it.
Joining me to help answer this question, Joan Price, a senior sex expert and speaker and author of numerous best-selling books, including Better Than I Ever Expected, Straight Talk About Sex After 60, Naked at Our Age, and others. Joan has been my go-to senior sex expert for so many years now that I am nearly there. I am nearly a senior myself. And Joan, your advice every day becomes increasingly more relevant to me personally. Welcome back to the Lovecast.
Thank you, Dan. You will never catch up with me, however.
I'll never catch up with you, but I remember, the first times we talked, my hair wasn't gray and yours was, and now we're both beautiful silver foxes.
That's right.
So are there any apps out there specifically for seniors? Where should this caller be directing her 70-something mom?
Well, first, let's differentiate between the apps and the sites, because the apps on the phone where you swipe right and left and you decide whether you want to meet someone based just on appearance with no information, that's not right for her mother. Mm-hmm. You can call them old-fashioned, but they're still around, they're still working. The sites like Match and OkCupid that have huge numbers of people. And she can look on the big screen. I mean, she's got to be able to see what she's viewing and read the profiles, and she can then present herself in a profile that puts her in the best light, rather than, using her words, rather than just, here's a photo of this 70-year-old woman, and do you want to date her? So using the sites instead of the apps is a good first step. But, I worry if she isn't computer literate and isn't phone computer literate, how is she going to handle the responses she gets? How is she going to weed out the trolls and the scammers?
And that is a concern, because there are people online who prey on lonely older people who are computer illiterate and haven't been through the ringer and may not have the bullshit detectors developed over time that other people who may be younger on dating apps typically have. So caller, you're going to have to run interference for your mother in a much more proactive way than you would have to for your sister or your daughter.
And that worries me too, because it sounds like the daughter was already somewhat squicked out about the whole idea. And she's going to get even more involved in her mother's sex life, dating life, sex life. And she doesn't sound like she wants to be. I think she needs to first see whether she can be non-judgmental about whatever it is her mother is looking for. And then find out what her mother is looking for. Why is she saying, how about field, which is about non-traditional relationships? What is she interested in now? And I think her daughter's got to just have a talk with her about that. Hey, Mom, what is it you're looking for? And I will not be judgmental. And she better mean that.
Even if it's an effort, sometimes you have to fake it till you make it. Of course, nobody wants to, be involved in their parents' sex life really in any way. But are you willing to?
Yeah.
And part of demonstrating to your mother that you're willing to is doing it in as non-judgmental, vibing a way as you possibly can. And of course, I want to say to the caller, of course, that will require some effort on your part.
It will require some effort, and it will require, I think, a whole new attitude adjustment. And if she thinks back when she was growing up, and she wanted her mom to accept her as a sexual being, her first dates, her first overnights, her first live-in.
Taking her to Planned Parenthood for her first birth control pills,
There
hopefully.
you go. There you go.
There are ways that parents are actively involved in facilitating the beginnings of their adolescent sex lives, their kids' sex lives, that I promise you your parents may have been a little squicked out by.
Yeah.
And if that didn't come across during those interactions, good. Your parents were making an effort not to be weird about it, not to make you feel shamed or judged. And now you get to pay that back.
You do. And you get to rise to the occasion. Just as you would advise a friend, your mom wants to be your friend for this particular endeavor. And you asked earlier, Dan, about sites for seniors. There are sites for seniors. But the problem is, how big is the audience? And I would still send her to the biggest sites, especially if she doesn't live in a major city. In a major city, maybe any site would do because there's so many people looking for love. But if she's in a small town or if she's doesn't drive at night, she's going to want to find people who are local. And that's easier with her biggest sites.
There's another conversation that the caller may need to have with her mother that's very similar to conversations parents need to have with their adolescent kids when they're first setting out on their sex lives. There is an STI epidemic among seniors in America.
Yes, there is.
So in addition to like online literacy, web literacy, dating app literacy, you're going to have to talk to your mom about condoms and protection that a lot of people who are much older think they don't have to worry about anymore because if they're straight, pregnancy isn't a risk. But you know what? Syphilis is, and gonorrhea and chlamydia are. And that's also a conversation, caller, that you're going to need to have with your mother.
That's absolutely true. I have a free video online called Safer Sex for Seniors with Joan Price. And I would suggest she watch that with her mom so they can talk about it. It's on YouTube, and I try to make it entertaining because, of course, sex has to be entertaining. And also, I explain how to eroticize condom use, including putting a condom on your partner, on your penis-owning partner, with your mouth.
Which is a skill that I never could master.
Watch.
So if your 70-year-old mom can master that skill.
It's easy.
Respect.
You just have to know the trick. And I show you how to do that in this video.
The trick is not to inhale the condom by accident, which I did. Anyway, I don't want to dwell on that nightmarish experience. Let's turn back to mom having Field on her list. It's possible mom Googled dating apps and Field was just on that list and she included it. But it's also possible you're going to wind up having a conversation with your mom and find out more about who your mom was or is sexually than you assumed. Because open relationships, swinging, kink, those aren't things that were invented 15 minutes ago.
No.
And there are people out there in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s who had kinky sex lives, multiple partners, open polyamorous relationships. Your parents might have been swingers and they never told you because you didn't need to know that, but you might find it out now.
Yeah. Or they weren't and she always wished they were.
Yeah, and now she wants to live a little.
Because a lot of people on this second or third or fourth time around, they want to explore things they didn't get a chance to do in a long-term relationship.
I want to put this out there. There's naturally anybody who contacts this caller's mom who's under 50 is going to be suspect. And I think should come in for a higher degree of scrutiny because the odds that person could be a scammer are higher if they're much younger, which is not to say that people haven't been scammed by people who are their same age. But there are people out there who are attracted to older people, older people's bodies, older people's wisdom, life experience. There are people in their 20s, 30s, 40s who are really into men and women in their 50s, 60s, 70s, even 80s. And so I just don't want you to delete responses to your mother from people that you think might be too young for her and therefore are scumbags or scammers, because it might not be true. And it might, when you have this conversation with mother about what she wants, what she might want is some 30-year-old who is into her, who is as they used to call them, I wonder how you feel about this term, Joan, gerontophiles. Who is a gerontophile. Have you ever heard that term?
I have never heard that. I learn something new from you every day, Dan Savage.
Well, it's only fair because every time I watch one of your videos or read one of your books, I learn a lot too.
Thank you so much for that. I get a lot of emails from my followers and my readers, and I get the occasional very earnest email from a young man who says, I've always been attracted to older women, and I don't know how to approach them so that they know I'm not a jerk or a creep, and that how do you do this? And
on your knees. It's always a good, I like that approach myself personally. How do you like to be approached by younger men, Joan?
Well, I like them to show that they're interested in who I am, not just whatever it is I represent in their mind or in their erotic mind.
Joan Price, senior sex expert. Check out her many, many books, including Better Than I Ever Expected, Straight's Talk About Sex After 60. Joan, where can my listeners find you online?
JoanPrice.com. Very easy. They can find my books, my senior sex tips, webinars, my sex toy reviews from a senior perspective. Got to take a look at those. And they can subscribe to my newsletter too, all at JoanPrice.com.
Joan, thanks so much for coming back on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan.
Time management is one of the most important keys to success. If you're running a small business, you know that mailing can really eat away at time better spent doing other, more important things. Free up time consumed by tedious mailing and shipping tasks with Stamps.com. Stamps.com streamlines your postage needs, making your business more efficient and putting more life into your work-life balance. The Stamps.com mobile app can act as your 24/7 post office. All you need is a computer and a printer. They even send you a free scale. Easily schedule package pickups through your Stamps.com dashboard. Automatically see your cheapest and fastest shipping options from different carriers. And with Stamps.com, you can seamlessly connect with every major marketplace and shopping cart if you sell online. And you will get rates you can't find anywhere else, like up to 89% off USPS and UPS. Order shipping and mailing supplies, labels, and even printers from the supply store when you run low. Put more life into your work-life balance. Put a thumb on the scale for life with Stamps.com. Sign up with the promo code SAVAGE for a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus free postage and a free digital scale. No long-term commitments or contracts. Just go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone at the top of the page, and enter the code SAVAGE.
Oh, hey, Dan. I'm wondering if you know, how long after you drink celery juice or eat celery is your cum sweeter or tasting better?
My husband insists that this is true, that if you drink celery juice or pineapple juice a half an hour before, I guess, somebody else is going to drink your cum, it's going to make your cum a little less salty, a little sweeter. And, you know, in the same way that if you have asparagus, soon after having asparagus, your urine is going to smell terrible, and allegedly your semen is going to taste a little worse than I guess semen already tastes. I'm a fan. I think cum tastes interesting and good. They say celery juice makes cum a little less salty. I happen to be a fan of salty foods. And I think an appreciation for the taste of cum is often very strongly associated with the person whose cum you're tasting or swallowing, or the circumstance under which you're ingesting semen, whether that's positive for you. Because if you're really into somebody, you're going to kind of like, unless there's a real chemical clash, how they taste, how they smell, how their cum tastes, how their ass tastes. And yeah, I don't think having a Snickers bar or a little pineapple juice or some gummies is really going to alter that in a significant and noticeable way. And I'm fascinated to think, who's out there measuring this? Are there some cum sommeliers somewhere who are swirling semen around in snifters and are able to determine vintage and provenance of semen and tell you why this load has hints of rosemary and this load has hints of pineapple and fruit? I don't buy it. Cum tastes like cum. Cum, often an acquired taste. If you're really into somebody, it is a rapidly acquired taste. But I don't know, call me a celery juice, pineapple juice truther, but I don't buy it. But what I was told when I mentioned your call to my husband, who believes this to be true, so two people who are on different sides of this issue can live together and love each other, that you can bridge this divide, is at about a half an hour. About a half an hour, have that celery juice a half an hour before that blowjob, which means your blowjob has to be scheduled sex, not scheduled weeks or months in advance sex, but at least a half an hour in advance. Have some celery juice, have some pineapple. To me, it feels like that cop-out of, I'll give a blowjob, but only if I can pour chocolate sauce all over your dick. Like, you like dick and how dick tastes, or that dick on that person tastes, or you don't. You like cum. You like how cum tastes, or you don't. All right, time for listener feedback. First up, some of the comments left on last week's show in the very lively comment threads at savage.love. Says Marsh LC regarding sexless marriages, which are a constant topic that comes up here on the Lovecast. I think, says Marsh, we need to redefine great guy and good relationship. If you've made it clear to your partner that something is a big problem for you and they acknowledge that, yes, it is a problem, but refuse to do anything about it, they are not a great guy, and this is not a great relationship. Some problems truly are unfixable, but someone who's perfectly fine with their partner being unhappy, not a good partner. Not going to get an argument from me on that one. Marshall C. Says Thingamajig, it is an awfully big leap from the gardener is flirting with me to the gardener is up for a sexual experience with me and my husband. Good luck to the caller who's flirting with her gardener, but don't be surprised if hubby's need to be involved winds up being a deal breaker for the gardener, assuming he's interested in going from flirting to fucking at all. That is a really good point, Thingamajig, and something married people who are being flirted with by their gardeners need to bear in mind. People assume that if you're married, you're monogamous, and therefore it's safe to flirt with you because nothing can happen. Now, sometimes when people flirt, they want something to happen, but sometimes people flirt when they don't think anything can happen because they don't really want anything to happen, and the flirting feels safe and harmless. We don't know if that's the case with this gardener, but caller, if you haven't done your due diligence, your screw diligence, if you haven't talked to the gardener about it yet, you can't know for sure whether he actually wants to fuck you, much less fuck you in front of your husband. And finally, says High Estate, the French dick pole vaulter was fun and all, but I'm sorry. Saying that he will be remembered over and above Mondo Duplantis, one of the best athletes and best pole vaulters of all time, is a wild take, Dan. I'm gay. I don't care much about athletics, and I never thought I'd say this, but Dan, it's not all about dick. All right, yeah, it's not all about dick. I mean, the Olympics weren't all about dick, but that event at this Olympics, I'm sorry, it was all about the dick. And we'll see in 4 years who is remembered. The guy who medaled in 2 consecutive Olympic Games in the pole vaulting competition, or the guy whose dick knocked him out of the competition. Check back with me, High Estate, in 4 years. If you were right, I'll buy you a drink. If I'm right, you can buy me one. All right, for more listener feedback and more of my responses, check out Struggle Session, where I respond at sometimes unreasonable length to listener and reader comments, which hasn't been going up very often this month because I've been away a lot, but it goes up most Thursdays at savage.love. And now, everyone's favorite part of the show, and mine too, I'm going to shut up and I'm going to listen to you and your feedback about last week's show.
Hey, this is for the woman about to pursue the gardener in episode 927. Don't. If he's a good gardeners are really hard to find. This is almost certainly going to squeak him out or weird him out, or the odds of a no are really massively high. What you're looking for is what the apps are for, what field is for. If you want to find somebody who's into what you guys are into, don't assume it's a gardener. And like I say, good gardeners are hard to find. Just keep him as a gardener, keep him as a fantasy, act this fantasy out in the real world with somebody whom you and your husband can find together through the apps.
Hey, Dan, this is a response to the lady with the sexless marriage in 927. A great question that you can ask is, what porn does her husband watch? Because there may just be something that is a dark little fantasy of his, that's a passion that he can't explain to his wife. And maybe if she starts to realize, or maybe he can unearth that to her, maybe they can actually dig into that together, and actually their sex life may actually open up again.
Dan, the guy who called in asking if it was okay if his husband peed in his ear, and Dr. Barack said, don't do that. Oh my God, it reminded me of this time when I was a kid and my paternal grandmother, who was from a long line of German Ohio farmers, told me about this great home remedy where you would pour freshly dispensed pee in your ear to relieve a really bad earache. I don't know, it had something to do with being close to body temperature or something like that. She may have just been fucking with me. She was a mean-ass bitch. But I am so relieved I never followed her advice. I feel very validated in my judgment.
And we're going to leave it there. We've got 3 ways for you to get us your juicy questions and your insightful comments for future shows. You can record your question or comment at savage.love/askdan, or you can make a voice memo on your very own phone and email us your question or your comment to q@savage.love, or you can call us at 206-302-2064. Hump 2024 is returning to your city this fall. Check out the new lineup of films and get your tickets to see Hump 2024 Part 2 in a theater with other fans by going to humpfilmfest.com. And if you are like most people, you've probably already made and shared some dirty videos. Enter your best dirty short for Hump 2025. There's no fee to enter, and every filmmaker that makes it into the festival gets a cut of every ticket sold. For all the details, go to humpfilmfest.com/submit. Follow me on Instagram and Threads at Dan Savage. Follow me at Blue Sky at Dan Savage, and you can still find me on The Bad Place at Fake Dan Savage. Follow Funny Dom on Instagram and Threads at The Funny Dom Returns. Follow Joan Price on Instagram and Threads at The Joan Price, and on Twitter at Joan Price. And hey, congrats to Joan on the New York Times recently naming her book, Naked at Our Age, Talking Out Loud About Senior Sex, as one of the best 8 books about sex. Not one of the 8 best books about senior sex, but about sex, period. For all things Joan, go to joanprice.com. The Savage Lovecast is produced every week by Nancy Hartunian and me and the tech savvy at-risk youth and Nancy. We will all be back at you next week with another installment of the Savage Lovecast. Thank you for downloading.